John 13:2. Et gena facta, cum diabolus iam misisset in corde, ut tradere Deum Judas Simonis Iscariotis. And dinner having been made, or having happened, when the devil had already put it in the heart that Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, should betray him. Now the observant reader will notice that we have no main verb here. This is also going to be true of verse 3. Verse 2 and 3 are setting up the circumstances for our main verb that will come in verse 4. So to kick things off, we have an ablative absolute, et gena facta, dinner having been made, expressing time past in relation to the main verb, and we'll circle back to this at the end when we'll discuss some of the textual history of this verse. So after our ablative absolute, we have a cum clause being used in a temporal sense, cum diabolus iam misisset in corde. After, therefore, since this is a pluperfect subjunctive, and must therefore mean in time prior to the main verb, and you may have learned iam to be glossed as now or at the present time, but when used with verbs with past aspect, it has more of a sense of already. And where had the devil already sent it? In corde, in the heart. In the heart of whom? By context, we know this is Judas, furthered by this purpose clause we have here clarifying what was put in the heart. Ut tradere Deum Judas Simonis Iscariotis, for Judas to betray him. We have our subject here in the nominative, that is a Greek nominative, and these patronymic genitives here, clarifying who is the father of this man. And then the action of Judas is tradere Deum, to hand him over or to betray him. That is Jesus. Now we have a couple of textual history things that we ought to deal with. First is this genitive absolute construction at the beginning, et gena facta. In the Greek, underlying we have two textual traditions of dipnu ginomenu and dipnu genomenu. And in signification of the difference between these two, and the difference between what these two signify is between while dinner is happening and after dinner. And obviously the Vulgate went with a ablative absolute construction that more signifies the latter. However, I'm not entirely sure how seriously this reading should be taken, not because the Vulgate doesn't tell us anything about the textual history of the Greek manuscripts. On the contrary, it tells us quite a bit. However, due to some of the limitations of Latin grammar, in situations like this where you have a series of several dependent clauses, it might make sense as a translator to retain the absolute construction, but sacrifice a little bit of the aspect that's expressed in the Greek, and all the more so if perchance you are lucky enough to have multiple manuscripts in front of you. You could see that perhaps there was also a textual tradition that agrees with that reading. So I don't know how much weight we can put on this translation for this being the priority reading in the Greek tradition. Erasmus, for his part, preferred the aorist reading. However, more recent scholarship has tended to prefer the present participle reading. As for what we have down here, there are several readings in the Greek tradition about the latter half of this verse. I picked two of the more distinct ones that are paradigmatic of most of the differences. What's especially interesting about this is that here atop the red line, we have this reading where Judas Simonos Iscariotou is genitive attached to Iscardian. So the devil sending this into the heart of Judas Iscariot, explicitly stated instead of implied, and then this purpose clause, hinauton paradoi, in order that he would betray him. Or, more idiomatically, because we tend to prefer the infinitive construction in English, to betray him. And then in the reading below the red line, we have a reading that mirrors the Latin text we have here, word for word, in order. And if we follow the priority reading of the Nestle-Aland 28th edition, the Vulgate in this case follows the more conservative reading.